lifestyle has caught fire, and we talk about the rewards and challenges of it. This is the Wandering Worker Podcast with Matt Lloyd.
Welcome to the Wandering Worker Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Lloyd. The Wandering Worker is powered by Magic Apple Technology, where we've been saving good businesses from bad phone systems since 2008. Whether you're tuning in from the comfort of your home office, a cafe, or exploring a new corner of the world, this podcast is your compass to navigate the ever-evolving landscape of remote work. We'll uncover invaluable insights, share personal stories, and connect with experts who have mastered the art of wandering while working. My guest today is Jim Shriver, sales manager, consultant, trainer extraordinaire. Jim, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you for being on. So before we get started, we're going to start off with just 5 rapid shoot questions. So try not to think about them too hard and just hit me with what you got, okay?
I'll try.
Question 1. What is one of your favorite smells?
Chapstick.
Chapstick. That's a good one. Okay. Do you ever sing alone, like songs alone? And what songs do you sing?
All the time in my truck, and I like to sing to the people in the cars and trucks next to me. I'll roll the window down if it's something good.
Is it country? Is it rock? What is it?
I'm mainly going to go country. I'll go hardcore on some banjo stuff, some Billy Strings, Meet Me at the Creek, something kind of just nuts that makes people first they look over and go, banjos? Wait, that's like hard rock banjo. And this guy's singing, he knows every word? Yeah, man, I'll do it.
That's great. All right, question 3. Have you ever saved someone's life?
No.
Okay.
I have to think about that. Figuratively, you've had impact that might have changed the course of someone's life. But
did you really save it? Yeah. Question 4. What is the last book you gave up on and stopped reading?
Napoleon.
That sounds like a book I would have given up on.
Man, I wanted to read it. I'm not opposed to reading a 900-page book. I'm really not. Yeah. And I'm a history buff, and I love, I've read most of them. But, man, this thing just dragged. And here's the crazy part. I got about 600 pages in it before I put it down.
I was reading a book.
It's about an 1,100-page book, and it just wasn't that compelling.
Yeah, I had a 1,000-page book about the history of the CIA, and I got about halfway through that thing, and I was like, okay, I just can't anymore. It's still sitting. It's been sitting beside my bed for a year and a half.
Yeah, we'll do that with movies sometimes. We'll get into a movie and we'll watch it and be like, wow, how much longer are we going to give this? And it just, the 15-minute increments gets to where there's only 15 minutes left, and my wife, she'll just pull the plug on it. And I'm like, we got this far, right?
Yeah. Right. Question 5, last question. Oh, this is a good one. What is your go-to dance move?
Running Man.
Now I got to see that. That's great. All right.
Yeah.
So
you just run in place.
Yeah, just run in place. That's all it is.
Do your head back and forth a little bit.
Keep smooth. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. So briefly introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jim.
So I'm Jim Shriver. I live in the sun coast of Florida, around Sarasota, where the ocean is not blue, it is teal colored. And that gives me the name of an organization I would work with, do some stuff with, which is TLC's Consulting Group. I've been in technology my entire career as a sales manager, sales leader, sales contributor. In that period of time, I've come up with my own proprietary sales training methodology and a sales process that yields results. I love taking young guys and sales teams and just taking them from here up to there. I currently work also with a company in Tampa called Triage Partners that does a lot of telecom infrastructure. So, when we talk about remote work at home, we definitely see how it's impacting that business. Partnering with companies like Frontier and Lumen and Brightspeed, and helping them get network into houses. We see how the remote work has impacted all of that stuff. So those are the things that I kind of work on.
Absolutely. What are some of the challenges you faced in your career, and how did you kind of get to where you are right now?
I've always been a sales guy. right? I mean, even when I was like 16 years old, worked at a department store and they put me in cameras and calculators. I didn't know anything. And this is when they had HP calculators that would run $400 and $500 that could barely do what your $8 one would do now.
Yeah.
But I was naturally pretty good at sales. My dad, I've got his DNA. He was vice president of a huge pharmaceutical company and was responsible for getting a product with NASA on the moon. So it just came down with my genes. I was also in a band at one time. And in the band, I found there was a lot of selling before and after the show.
Yeah.
And I took some of those sales skills and I just turned them into learning about other people. I guess where it really kind of turned the corner for me is I worked for a guy who I thought was, I don't have any words I can use on your podcast. It wasn't great. But he said, hey, take this team that's horrible in Nashville and you got to turn it around. I said, okay, I can do that, man. I can manage a team, no problem. He said, yeah, but I want you to do sales training every day of the week at 8:00, every single day, 52 weeks a year. I'm like, okay, where's the program? He goes, you got to make it up. I was like, what? So I had to come into work and every day just pull an hour's worth of sales training out of my hat. And after doing that for a couple years straight, I got pretty good at it. And the team did go from like almost dead last to number 1 and number 2 in a relatively short period of time. But I loved coaching guys and kind of diagnosing what their issue was that was preventing them from being any good. And I've gotten pretty good at that now. I have a methodology that I'll call the road to yarn, which is yes or no, because nothing else as a salesperson matters. And I teach these guys how to get to that. So that's my sales stuff.
Yeah, no, and full disclosure, I was a part of that sales team all those years ago. And so I remember all the training and was it the lemurs? Is it the lemurs? You remember the Cliff story about the lemurs?
Oh, yeah.
It was the lemurs, right?
Lemmings.
That's it.
It was the lemmings.
I remember that one. We got in trouble that day, if I recall, because I introduced you to Fugazi, the band Fugazi, and we were listening to them between, and the people that were next door to us came and knocked on the window and said, hey, can you please shut that off?
I remember, too, you were the only other guy I knew that understood and had heard of the band Probot.
Yeah.
And it was actually Dave Grohl's apology to what he did to heavy metal.
To the thrash bands.
I still listen to that today. I still think it's fantastic.
Oh, I do too. I love that.
We had fun with that.
So you'd mentioned that you work remote now. What are some advantages that you found of that? I mean, besides not having the commute, what are some things you like about that?
There's advantages and disadvantages to it. I was reading a study recently that said employers were really concerned that if they had a remote workforce, since people would be working out of their house, they would work less and they wouldn't be as productive. Studies have shown the absolute opposite is true. People wake up, don't have a commute, go straight to the office. They're there on time every day. There's not water cooler talk and people, interrupting everything that you're doing all the time. And there's a bit of a guilt thing that says, man, I've got to work. I've been pretty blessed in my career over the past 20 years. I've only had, I think, 2 positions where I actually had to go to an office. So I've learned to be an adult and work out of the office. The life-work balance thing is fantastic, right? If I have to go and take care of something, I can take care of it. I'll work a little extra hour here so that I can take care of something else there. I do love not having a commute. But I was a long time ago realized I'm going to have to train my wife and my daughter and my dog that during the hours of like 8, 5 o'clock, unless we're being broken into or the house is on fire, leave me alone in this room, which I've made very conducive for me to work in. And I think that's really important as a remote worker. I'm an artist and a musician in addition to this. So I've got guitars right there and I've got my art stuff right back there. So I have to have an environment that I can stand to work in. I couldn't go back to a cube.
Yeah.
But I like it. On the flip side, the lack of physical interaction with your peers is something you kind of have to work on. So calls like this, where I can actually see you and see your body language, and Zoom calls and things where I can see people and interact, is really good because there is kind of a disconnect being a remote worker. And I think that's one of the aspects that employers have to kind of work on, is how do they take that remote workforce today, make them still feel like part of the team, like they're not only just contributing, but we see them. They're physically part of the team, even though I'm 70 miles away from, my employer's office.
Yeah. So that's a good point. So would you say then that the technology and those tools play a very important role, maybe even more important as an internal component to a remote workforce than having everybody in the office?
Huge. And let's just say, okay, here's what's happened. If we could just kind of run this back a little bit, 2 years, 3 years ago, in March, I came back from a trip in Seattle. The week after I got back, they said, hey, there's this crazy disease that started in Seattle and everything's going to shut down. And I wasn't feeling that great after I got back from that trip. And I frankly feel like I got one of the first early cases of fairly asymptomatic COVID. But at that point, I'm starting to get messages from my partners going, you can't come and visit our office anymore. Our workers are going out here. There's no more travel. I'm not on a plane anymore. I used to live on a plane. I used to travel 46 weeks a year. But take your average worker. Your average worker in an office, if they have a technical issue, they quick send a text, a chat, or an email, or walk down the hall and go get the IT guy. And the IT guy comes and fixes it, right? Instantly. Yeah. Now we're going to take this worker and we're going to say, you're going to work from the house and get a computer and connect it up to our VPN and get a phone, either a soft phone, hopefully, or a office desk phone or your smartphone. And you're going to have to connect into all these different systems. And a lot of these people just weren't comfortable taking on that stack of technology themselves without real support and trying to figure out how to not only manage it, but thrive in it, right? You take for granted, I walk into my office, everything works because there's an IT team that said that. And they've got policies and they've got apps and they've got all sorts of things that keep company data safe, that keep me safe, that I don't have in the remote office.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, did you see with some of your other clients and stuff, did you notice like some issues when that COVID came, when COVID came and people had to go remote, and the people that you saw that had issues, what was the difference between them and people that didn't?
I saw, take a step back and say, what caused it, right? So COVID just came suddenly. Just one day, it was like we having our SHIX moment that said, you can't come to the office anymore because we might die, right? So everybody has to work at home. So at the very beginning of this, we sent everybody home and said, okay, you've got internet, right? Call Frontier or whoever and get faster internet. And you've got a phone, let's do this. And then now we found out we can talk and you can VPN in and you can get email. Might not be email through the app that you want. You might be getting it like through your Apple phone instead of through Outlook because you didn't know how to download Office 365. Phone appearance, both incoming and outbound, is something everybody should be concerned about. Yeah. But at the beginning, we were just trying to survive, right?
Yeah.
That's all. We were just staying alive. Let's stay in business and work. Then we make this shift. Here we are 3 years later. Did you really pay that much attention to what that technology stack's longevity was going to be? Did you get it right? On this phone here that I'm using for business, are there apps that are installed in this phone that collect from other apps? Are there apps that are collecting my email, my files, my data, my phone calls? Am I putting my company's data at risk because I'm working out of this? There are those considerations. Considerations of, should I even be using this? When I'm calling out to a customer, shouldn't it really say Magic Apple and have Magic Apples as presented as the caller ID instead of Jim Shriver's cell phone, personal cell phone number? You think about those things. What does that outbound look like? And what about proprietary customer data? And how are we protecting that? And I think there are a lot of organizations that are more vulnerable to this than others. But I think about like pest control. I think about insurance companies. I think about outside sales reps that have all of this customer data. And what the customer has is their sales rep's personal cell phone number. All those things just kind of come into play, and it's probably time for not most companies, but like every company to do a reset, to take back, make an assessment, and go, what was the policies that we put in place? What are the policies we gave up so that everybody wouldn't die, right? And what's the gap there? What's the delta? And how do we fix this? And who can help us with that? I think that's where people are, but I think there's not a big awareness that that is where you are.
Yeah. So another interesting question there is, they get the technical part figured out. They have that to where that works fairly good. What's another big, can you think of another big risk to having another thing that you really have to think about and address before committing to a full remote workforce? What's something else besides the technology piece that people should be thinking about?
Well, if you think about, you have it in the safety of your own home when you've got an office, right? Mm-hmm. And at my particular house, I've got a fence around the back. I've got an alarm system, a badass dog. I've got ways to protect all the stuff that's in here. And as soon as we start sending it out, nothing's really protected anymore the way that it should have been. And the lack of policy and the lack of technology that protects customer data, proprietary stuff, the stuff that I don't want the world to see, it's really, really important. And the piece about, if you're using your smartphone, you think about how many apps you have on your phone and how many apps are available and how much data these things collect. Almost every app that you have now says, hey, can I track you? Can I follow you? Will you consent?
I'd like to use your camera, your microphone, and everything.
We're going to access all of your contacts. Okay.
It's no big deal, right? You don't care.
Yeah. It's nothing. And
that's the Baskin Robbins app. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. But then suppose this client leaves or this employee leaves. I've got your whole company.
Yep.
Right here. That's a big moment. Take that from proprietary customer data and just identity, right? And brand awareness. You've spent 14 years building the brand of Magic Apple. You want the customer to get a certain feel and experience every time you contact them, whether it's through email, it's on the phone, whether it's an outbound call to them. I want to know that it's you. I want to hear the name Magic Apple more than I want to hear the name Matt Lloyd, right? Because I'm identifying Magic Apple as the place that's given me the great experience. I know that Matt guy, he runs it and he's fantastic, but if he goes on vacation for 3 weeks, I need to know that my Magic Apple people are there, taking care of me.
Absolutely.
So there's that. And then there's just little stuff like really poor connectivity for video calling, right? Or for any kind of calling, dropped calls. Man, you have to look at, why am I around, right? I'm around because I help people impact one thing, revenue for their company. That's my job. That's my forte. That's what I'm good at doing. I am about the revenue. And when you put your revenue at risk because you just kind of patchwork everything together, it's a really serious conversation to be having. It's not one to blow off a sales guy that goes, hey, where's your technology looking like before COVID compared to where it's at now? That's a serious conversation. People need to have it.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. What about culture?
Look at your office. Right? Magic Apple office has a ping pong table. So unless you fold it up and you want to play by yourself right now, I think that culture's gone. It's difficult to do team building when all you do is talk to each other a couple times a week. So having the ability to do some one-on-ones that are a video call where I can see you and I can hear you. Having team calls, team activity, they're really important. And then I still think companies need to work on an in-person event whenever it's possible to do that, keep that culture going. Now, that's the one thing that goes out the door. The second that they say, hey, you're going to work out of your office now, right? You used to report to an office that had 45 people in it. Now you just report to the room down the hall. It's 35 feet away and there's no people. There's no one to make fun of the Mets with, to have coffee over. Nobody's gossiping about who's, zooming who. I mean, none of that stuff is happening. And there's also not the peer pressure to succeed. You miss that in this culture. So you have to make up those gaps somewhere. I mean, it's a big price, Matt. It's a good question.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing where I think a lot of people that are reluctant to it. So, and there's a lot of, obviously there's companies that, auto mechanics, stuff like that, places where you have to be there. You can't, fix a car remotely yet, that kind of stuff. But the people that have roles that can be, I think one of their big hangups is that loss of control, or that idea that culture is affected and all that. At Magic Apple, we kind of looked at it from the standpoint of, yes, there is that initial loss where we're not all here together, but we plan quarterly events to where we're taking everybody out, going and doing something fun, axe throwing, going to see a baseball game, going to a bar, doing whatever once a quarter minimum. And then, we do have our weekly meetings that are our video meetings. But at Magic Apple, anyway, we felt the benefit to our team member was more for them to be able to go and work remote and have a better life-work balance than the culture-driven and the control. We figured that, and I really believe this to be the truth, the more, and you made the statement earlier, if you hire an adult that is going to do their job, you'll be fine. If you don't hire an adult, then you may have some issues with the culture, and that's where you have to figure out, do I have the right people in the right seat and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So that's really interesting. So tell me, what do you think, if we're looking ahead and we're looking at remote work 5 years down the road, what do you see? How do you see it playing out?
Again, we're all going to have to evolve, right? Technology continues to evolve. You think about, I think it was like 14 years ago. I could be wrong on this math. Sorry about that. But we were using BlackBerries. We were just sending emails and making phone calls. And man, I thought I was rocking it. I had a BlackBerry. I would land from a plane and it would go pop, 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 pop. As soon as I got up, I'm like, I want to check my email on the plane.
You had a little ball on it,
movie,
pearl.
Yeah,
I love those things.
There's a movie that said, "You've got mail." It was such a novel thing that we went, wow, you've got mail. Now you go to your laptop and you go, you've got 10,000 emails, and 9,000 of them are no good. But we're going to have to evolve and roll with the technology. I'll tell you where I think some things are going to change. There are a lot of guys in my field, right, that in revenue producing, however you want to call it, that some are micromanagers, and I don't have any use for those guys. But there are other guys who really do need serious data to understand productivity. So I can no longer walk down the hall past a team and see that they're on the phone, they're calling people, they're doing so. I can't see that anymore. If they're all working from this, I don't have any reporting mechanism from my smartphone. I don't have anything that says, here's how many inbound calls we got, here's how many hung up. So we're going to have to figure out how we get that data that we used to have when we all worked in one box, how we can get that remotely. And it's out there today. I mean, you can get smartphones, you can get a smartphone app. I think you're in the phone business. They told me, hey, my guy Eric, he made 45 calls today and 7 of them went through and 3 were hang-ups, whatever. But as a sales guy, one of the things I'm looking to do is diagnose what's wrong in your processes, what I could make better, right? And I need data in order to do that. Back when you were a puppy and we worked in an office together, it was pretty easy to see what your particular issue was. And I remember to this day what it was. You just took too damn long from seeing a customer to giving them an actual solution. You'd wait like 2 weeks. And
it wasn't quite 2 weeks, but I mean, I waited too long.
Every competitor in town
had already gone in there. They closed and they were already installed and ready to go by the time I came in for the second meeting.
Yeah, they were. But I had data that I could look at, right? And I had that face-to-face contact with you. We could do one-on-ones that in person and really feel one another out and build trust, and figured out, hey, Matt, if you just, instead of doing the 2 to 3 week thing, make it 2 to 3 days, let's just see what happened. And you went from like here to boom, the proverbial hockey stick. But I think the data that's missing, we're going to have to find it. We're going to have to find out how to do it. We're going to have to be able to build a culture remotely. We have to find ways to say, this is our new normal, and make it work the best that we can. Again, I think that's got to start with, where are we right now? We knew where we were 3 years ago. We just threw everybody out. We just said, get out. Go get internet, get your phone, okay? No matter how many crappy apps you have on there that are taking all of our company's data, all of our customers' proprietary information. I got no way to see who's calling, how many, no idea what the customer satisfaction experience is, but we've got to do it because we want to live. Okay, we lived. Pandemic's over, but you're not coming back to the office. So now let's make sure we got it right. And I would start with an assessment of any office that went remote of saying, where were you before? What did you do? And take a look and go, is that best practices for today? And fix that. Because your nomadic worker, the guy who wants to travel and roam, he could be in his RV. Right? If he's in his RV and he's got a company phone, he's got a smartphone, he's got apps that protect stuff, I don't care if he's in Colorado or if he's in Franklin, Tennessee, or if he's in Sarasota. Doesn't matter to me because all of my stuff is protected. I can see what he's doing. I can understand productivity. All of those things are going to have to percolate. And I think there's an effort there now. I'm not the only person in the world that's figured out how we started was a defensive mechanism to now we have to say office in a box, right? I'm going to hire a guy. He's going to work out of his house. What apps should he have? What technology should he have? Whose internet provider? What firewall? What all of that stuff? All of that needs to be fleshed out now. And I don't think we've done a great job so far of doing that. We're getting a lot of business though now because of that. People are going, help me. I don't really know what to do here.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Let me ask you this question. What do you think some of the hangups are? So like, we know that there's a lot of people out there that don't like the idea of remote workforce. They want people to come back in, whether they want to come back in or not. What do you think the hangup is with some of these companies, and why would they think that way?
I think it's a generational thing. I think it's a cultural thing. The guys that are older school used to like to look and see down the hall and see people on the phone and see people typing and busy. I want my 8 hours work out of them no matter what. I think as you look at some of the newer tech companies, they can't even imagine working in an office. But the people that are saying, hey, you've got to come back are at risk of losing a great portion of their workforce because people don't want to come back. The economy is such now that it doesn't really matter too much what field you're in. There's a job if you want it and you can work remotely. So these people that have that are going to have to adapt. There are obviously places that'll never be able to do that. Medical, right? I mean, doctors, nurses, staff, they have to be in there. So there are some fields that'll never get back there. Insurance agents, don't see that you'll see 4 floors of insurance agents in downtown Atlanta anymore. I think that's gone. I feel that way about stockbrokers. My investment broker and guy, he works out of his house. He's a vice president for one of the larger ones, and he goes into his office once every 2 weeks. But I think, Matt, really it was a cultural thing. We grew up with it. We grew up with go to the office and work, go be at the office at 8, leave at 5 o'clock. From 8 to 30, we didn't do too much. From 4:30 to 5 or 5:15 when we rang the dinner bell, we didn't do too much. We got ready to leave, took a lunch hour. Now we work out of the house, understand that guy's coming into his office. He's working there. You can get Teams or whatever it happens to be and see a presence that he's there at his desk if that's what you so desire. But people are going to have to adapt. This is it. This is a new normal, and you're not turning it back.
Yeah, no, I think we've seen, and we've had some other guests on the show, some younger guys that coming out of college that they're demanding that. They're saying I won't take a job unless I have at least a hybrid model that I get to work from my house 4 days a week and come work in 2 or something along that line, and have the freedom to be able to have. I mean. I think it's fair. I mean, I think that's a fair thing to say. Before it wasn't possible. It is possible now, and it's more than possible. It's very real and is being done every day. So it's like, why not give them an opportunity to have a better, work-life balance? Yeah.
And, as I said at the beginning of this, studies have shown people are working actually harder when they work at home because they feel like the onus is on them to perform because they're in a home environment, not an office environment. So they want to make sure their productivity can be measured and they can be seen. They're working hard. So we just kind of have to say, all right, well, let's do this. we're going to have to adapt, but let's get good at this, right? Let's get good at having remote workers. Let's really figure out how they can thrive. Let's get the technology pack around it. The social stack needs to be around it. The activity, the interaction, the recognition, all of those things need to be part of it. But we got to get good at it. And the time is here, and it's right now, because people have figured out they didn't just get lucky that they got the one company that's let me work remote. There are 20 other companies that let them go work remote. So we got to make them happy.
Let's see. So I know you're kind of a one-man shop right now, right? Besides having a couple other partners that you maybe work with?
Yeah, for the most part. On the consulting side, yes.
Got you. Are you if you hire somebody, that's going to be a remote worker, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, makes total sense. Makes total sense. What else? I mean, as we start to wrap things up here, I just kind of want to give you an opportunity. Is there anything else you want to talk about today?
It's kind of been the theme of our call of, hey, it's here. Remote work is here. Look at why you went and put your workforce in a remote environment. What did you put in place to help support them that still keeps the integrity of your company's policies and your company's technologies? Step back and look at that today and find your whoops moments, because they're there. Okay, there's a big gap. Almost every company that hasn't done an assessment today. I would urge companies to do that.
Yeah.
Just sit back. If you need help, somebody doing it, I know a couple people that can help you.
Yeah.
But certainly that conversation needs to be made, because remote work is here to stay. And again, I'm just going to say it, that let's get good at it.
Yeah. I think you're 100% right there. In a lot of it, I think we talked about the older generation or not necessarily wanting to give up that accountability and that control. I think it's not giving it up, it's redefining it and learning how to do it with the new tools that are there. Because, with our team, we're 99% remote, and we still have the accountability. We still have the control that's there, and we also have more productivity. And so we've experienced benefits from doing this with our team, and it's been super, super helpful. And they like it as well. It's turned into an added benefit.
Yeah, I would say there's one event that I participate with your team with every week on Friday mornings that helps team build, because it's such a casual thing. And we're talking about that cultural piece that's kind of missing. You're out there on your own, but we have coffee with Jim every Friday morning. Yeah. So we just wake up, grab a cup of coffee, no agenda. We just talk about everything from how awful the Mets are to what worked for you this week, or, which of you is going line dancing and where. That's
real questions that get asked.
Really I mean, but those sort of things really help to make people feel like they're part of something.
Yeah.
And where I really would tip my hat to you and Magic Apple, you've created an environment over there where even though your guys are working remotely, it feels like a family to them. It feels like a team. And that's because of the interactions that you have with them all the time, individually and as a team. There is a expectation to succeed on your team that is there because of that cultural environment that you've created. Ping pong,
it's nice when it was here, but it's by no means the most important thing that we do anymore. So, hey, Jim, I just want to extend a heartfelt thank you to you, man, for joining us and sharing your expertise with us. Cool. Where can our listeners find you?
Best thing would be to email me at jim@tlcsconsultinggroup.com.
We'll put it below the video somewhere so they can email you, and then we'll have you back in when you get that book finished.
Cool,
and we'll bring you back from that. So thank you. I appreciate it. Well, that's it. That's another episode of The Wandering Worker. We hope you enjoyed hearing from Jim today, and be sure to mark your calendar for our next episode. We will continue to deep dive into the world of the Wandering Worker. We'd also like to thank our sponsor, Magic Apple, for bringing you this episode today. If you're not thrilled with your business phone system or your work from home experience isn't giving what you want, give us a shout. We'll be happy to help you out, and we've been doing it since 2008. I'm Matt Lloyd, and until next time, enjoy the week.
Cool, man.